Hi there, this is Bibi and I'm passing by to show you how to use the Snowflake ornament stencil designed by me for spellbinders. So this is a layering stencil and it includes 2 sheets and 2 masks. And I'm going to be using Nina white cardstock. This is 110 grams. And I'm also going to be using positively saturated inks. All the colors are listed below. Okay, we are going to start by grabbing this stencil here that has the main elements we need to create the bubbles. So the key here is to use 3 different ink colors of the same color family. We are going to use a very light ink color and we are going to start by stenciling the small bubble, just like that. Once we have added the light ink, then we can add a shadow using a medium shade of the same color so that we can have some contrast on that stenciled image. I'm going to clean the stencil and then I'm going to repeat the same process using the larger bubble. So we start by applying the lighter ink, just like that, and then we are going to use the medium shade of the same ink color over the area where those 2 circles intercept or they are joining together. And I'm doing this because I want the large bubble to be in the front of the panel or in the front of the image. I want to add a shadow, so I'm going to mask that large bubble, holding everything with my hands, and I'm going to use the medium ink shade there where those 2 circles join together or intercept. So that's going to look like a shadow, and then using the lighter ink, I blend everything out. I want a very subtle look and feel, but for more contrast or drama, you can use brown or black inks to add shadows. Regardless what you want to do, I will always advise you to start by applying light ink colors and then work towards the darker shades. However, at any stage, you can also add metallic inks, as I'm doing here. I'm using a gold ink just to give you an extra idea, but if you want to keep it simple, all you have to do is to add a darker ink to stencil the snowflakes. And to add volume to this image, you can also add a darker shade of ink at the edges of the image, and do not re-ink the brush so that when you reach the center of the image, the brush will have less ink and the color will look lighter. This will give shape and dimension to these bubbles. Now we are not going to do any of that because we are using a metallic ink. This is going to keep the surface of that bubble really flat, and I will be able to use other stencils over and apply more ink if I want to. Look at that, it's absolutely gorgeous and super easy. Now we have to do the smaller bubble, and to do that we need to mask our larger bubble. So we use the mask just on top. I'm not using any adhesive on the stencils. I'm just holding everything with my fingertips. But if you have an stencil mat or a gel press, you can place this over and that will hold the stencils. The only thing that is not going to hold is the mask that you have to keep pressing down with your hands so it doesn't move. And if you are using metallic inks, you need to apply a lot of ink. So you will see me there applying and applying more and more ink because I want to make sure that I'm covering the paper properly. These inks are translucent, so you need to apply various layers of ink. Okay, we are done with this second step, and when you are creating with this will only take a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to clean my stencil again because I want to keep it clean, just to avoid smearing ink here or there. So that's how I clean my stencil. I use a towel and I just spray water and I just wipe it off. Okay, so now I'm going to stencil these little details here, and I'm going to use an even darker ink. So I'm using here the darker ink I have in my table, and the application is very soft and gentle. I'm not pushing or making any pressure on the brush. And then as I'm going to do the same for the small bubble, I'm going to use the mask on the larger bubble. Every time we are going to be working on the small bubble, we are using the mask on the large bubble, just because that small bubble is in the back, right? Remember that. So there you go, we are building up these Christmas bubbles, and as you see there, this is very simple. And now we are going to add the bows. There is two bow designs. There is a smaller bow that you can use with the smaller bubble, or you can also use it with the larger one. They are interchangeable. There's no rules. You can use this here and there, or you can also use those with other stenciled image you might have to make a Christmas present or something like that. I will share those ideas later on. For now, we are going to add those little details, and I was using gold ink to add this piece of the bubbles, but then I changed my mind and I decided to add a little bit of brown ink to make that piece stand out. These are little details and little things that I like to do, and I'm sharing everything with you. So now we are going to stencil the bow, and here you can use a dark ink. I'm using here the same darker ink that I was using in the previous step, and then I went ahead and grabbed an even darker ink. It's called Cherry, to be able to finish this bow. Listen, there is no rule here. You can use a darker ink with one of the little parts of the bow and an even darker with the other one. It doesn't have to be one or the other one. It will look okay anyways. So I never think about it. I just did it like that. And that's it. That's the bow. And I'm going to do the same with the smaller bow. Even with that smaller bubble is behind it, there is a bow to stencil. So that's what I'm going to do. You see me there, I'm using just the ink I have in my brush. And then I'm moving the stencil, placing it in the way to layer that bow. And then I'm going to grab a softer ink color and I'm going to apply it there. So this is randomly, you know, it's not like I'm thinking what ink color I'm going to use. Don't waste your time on that. Just use ink that is darker than the other one, just to have that contrast between those two parts, and that's it. And because I cannot leave this panel alone, I'm going to add more shadowing, and then I'm going to use cherry ink just in that little corner there, because when these inks dries, they tend to evenly cover the paper, so I could not see that difference between one bubble and the other one, so I needed more color in that area. So I hope that with that I finished my bubbles, and now I'm going to add the strings, and I'm using a brown ink color to do that. So there you go. This is how you make a Christmas card only using a stencil and inks, and you can make the bubbles in any color. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you some super quick and easy ideas to finish this card. So first, I'm going to show you another sample. If you see me there, I'm using a selection of blue inks, and I'm going to stencil the large bubble using the lighter ink color I have on my table. And I'm going to stencil the other circle using the same ink color. So I don't have to change the brush or the inks. I'm just going to work with the same ink at the same time. Now I'm going to do the shadowing. And after doing this, I'm going to apply the lighter ink color that I just applied. That is this one here. And I'm going to blend everything out just like that. I'm going to mask the image that I want to be or appear in the front of the panel, and I'm going to add shadows to the image that is in the back. Now we blend everything out using the lighter ink color that we previously applied. Then I'm going to use a darker ink color to stencil the snowflakes. I'm going to mask the large image, and I'm going to repeat the process for the small bubble. Now we are going to use the details that are in that same stencil sheet using an even darker ink color, just like that. And I'm going to clean the stencil just to make sure I don't have any ink smearing on my panel. I mask the larger bubble and then I use the stencil to transfer that image there. And then we use the other stencil in the pack to add details. I'm using a darker ink to add these details, and remember that for the bows I only need to use 2 contrasting ink colors, and if I want to add some shadows at the edges of the image, we are going to apply ink from the edge of the stencil image towards the center, and that's going to give a very nice effect to the stencil image. I really like the look and feel of these panels using just ink, just like that, but I decided to splatter this using blue ink diluted with water, and I'm also going to splatter this with gold and white paints. You can skip this step if you want to, but I kind of like all that texture, so that's me. Okay, so once I have this done, I was looking at this and I said, okay, I want to show you how this image will look if we add black shadows. So we are going to grab the stencil, especially the details, and we are going to add black ink in the corner of those stenciled image, just like that. I'm using here an Altenew detail brush. All those supplies are listed in the video description for your convenience. So that's something you can do with this or any other stencil, and it adds some value, some interest to your images. You can also add paste. I'm using here Nuvo Mousse, and the reason because I choose Nuvo Mousse is because this stuff dries fast and it doesn't add a lot of dimension to the projects. The thing here is that I have to allow this to dry before I can stencil the other image. So while this is drying, I'm going to add some gems to the bubbles, and I'm trying to add those gems in the center of the snowflakes. So that's something very simple to do, and it looks pretty nice. And another thing I wanted to show you here, just like, you know, I'm giving you more. So I'm going to show you here how to add shadow to the outer edge of those bubbles. So I initially started with the 2 masks on, and that's the way to do it. But I have to do it this way because I added those gems and they add dimensions, so I cannot place the stencil just over the paper. It's just not properly in place. So ideally I will use the 2 masks and I will do the shadow at the same time, but here I'm doing it carefully and I'm making sure I don't have a lot of ink on the brush, so that I just get a very soft layer of color in that area. This is completely optional. It's me showing you more ideas to use the Snowflake ornament stencil. Okay, so now this is dry and I can apply mousse on the other ornament. I don't know if I like the mousse. Let me know in the comments, please, if you prefer the mousse or just the ink. If you ask me, I'm happy just with the ink. I want to show you here how this looks when it's dry. And I also want to show you a comparison so you can make your mind. Just let me know. Okay, now we are going to finish these cards and I'm going to do some stamping. I'm using my Misty stamping platform, and I'm also using a stamp from Holiday Sparkle Stamp Set by Simon Says Stamp. This is an elongated stamp and it's just gorgeous, and I'm also mixing this up with a small sentiment from a Snowflake Witches stamp set that also includes coordinating dies. So this is a way to mix and match stamp sets to create any sentiment that you might like. For this other card, I tried to find the way to curve the stamps just to be able to stamp those curved sentiments at the edges of the bubbles, and these sentiments are from a stamp set called Tiny Words Christmas by Simon Says Stamp. I use it a lot and I love it because it's very versatile. To decorate these cards, I also use gold Nuvo glitter. You can use similar things like Nuvo drops or this kind of liquid embellishments. And to finish, I glue the panels over a contrasting background and over C6 card bases. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel or visit my blog for more ideas and inspiration. If you have any question, please ask. I'm more than happy to help. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting. Bye!